So we have the vessel, and we have time, and then we have the heartbeat, which is, as Chassidus explains, as we're calling it, Olam Shana Nefesh. Olam is the vessel, Shana is time, Zman, and the Nefesh is the heartbeat. The heartbeat is the message that is being transmitted from the first machshava, the first thought, which is the first thought and the end of the thought is all connected in one. But when the message comes out, it doesn't look like what it looks like over here. It comes from a place which is beyond vessel and time, beyond Olam and Shana. So what does that mean? What are we talking about? So we're coming out of entering the space. We're coming back from Yom Tov, coming back from Tishrei, coming back from El, where we went through this process of understanding that, as we go through every year the same cycle of all the Yom Tovim and different times of the year that we celebrate, and we understand now a little more that it's not one year and another year that we're measuring time from going in a circle, or measuring time going linear from going from back to forward, but rather it's an evolution of the message being transmitted. It's all happening internally. It's all happening from within. That's where it's really happening, which means that, yes, that time is being transmitted in space, which creates the illusion of we're going forward. And if you look at it that way, then it's just another year, and it's just another Yom Tov, it's just another celebration. But and from that place, we're not really advancing that much, but rather we're stuck because we're holding on to what we are familiar with. We're holding on to that way of processing, so there's not much happening that way. But if we understand the source of time and space, that we understand that it's coming from a place that it's higher than where time is measured by minutes ticking away, but rather it's being transmitted. There's a message there, and the way time moves is based on how the message wants to be expressed, which is, as we can see, that sometimes there is a leap year, so on Iber, that we're adding more days to the month, we're adding another month to the year. Right, so from there, why do we do that? Because time, the message that's coming through is saying that this is when we need to have Pesach, and this is when we need to have Sukkot. It's based on where we are in what month there is, the month of Chodesh Aviv, when the trees start, opening up, and the fruits start showing, and we bring Bekirim and so on and so forth. When we're going from Sukkot, which is we just came out of, we have an opportunity when these times come into the Olam Asiyah, we have an opportunity, and the work is that we become familiar with what's happening. We go to a place that is beyond time and space as we know it, but rather we're going into the message of what Zman is telling us, the message of the heartbeat. What is the heartbeat telling us? What's the message that's being transmitted? Throughout the year, we're dealing with stuff that we need. We need different things based on the work that we do, based on where we're at, based on what's coming up, of celebrations of family, children, marriage, or having another child, or whatever it is. And based on that, those are my needs. And based on the work that one is doing, between yourself, between your spouse, or your children, or work, friends, based on that is what I need. That's what I'm desiring. That's what I'm wanting, and that's what I'm attracting. Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah is a time that is where Hashem says, it's you and me. Let's you and me. We're going to have a little farbrengen, just you and me. What does it mean, you and me? What does it mean, just you and me, and nobody else is going to be in that circle? That means that we're entering going to a place of who am I really? What is it that I really need? What is it that I really want? All jokes aside, yes, we've been at war and we've been fighting and battling and doing all types of stuff, but all that I'm doing was based on a narrative that was my job that I need to do, my mission of what I have to do. But then there's something there is above that. That plays out in time and space, but then there's something that go into a place of the message before it's transmitted into time and space, going into the actual to the oneness of self. So when we enter that space, that's the ultimate space of silence that one can enter, which is silence is that I'm letting go of all the noise around me, and which as a result of that we go into relationship with stuff that we want or that we don't want, but we're just automatically in a relationship with. We're forced into that relationship based on the other relationships that we are connected with. But when we enter in the space of who am I really, which is, it doesn't come overnight. It comes after 2 months of work, and then Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then Sukkot, and then the last day of Sukkot, finally, we're entering the space, we're going into the space of who am I really, which I can, from that place, we can let go of everything. It's already the 8th day of the vacation, which I'm actually finally, shut down from everything, completely turned off, turned out, and going inward, going into the cloud of myself, which is driven by what our creator, the supplier, ultimately what he's driving, what his rutzin is. We're entering that space. That's the last day of Yom Tov, and from that place we go back into the Welt, which is the first parsha of the week, which is Berashit, the beginning of creation, which is we're dealing with the snake. And the snake is a terrible machla. It's from the Eitz Hadas, where we're entering in the space of Tov Ra, of confusion, and ultimately, that's when we start feeling the anxiety of coming back into this reality that we live in, into this false reality that we're living in. And what it comes down to is, it comes down to shame. That's the core of everything. The core of all the issues is shame. And as we know, that as soon as Adam and Chava, they ate from the Eitz Hadas, they experienced shame. As it says in the Torah, they were embarrassed of themselves. They found themselves being without clothes, and clothes means on every level, spiritually and emotionally. There was judgment that came in, because the snake skin operates, the way it drives energies from a place of shame, because that's as far as it can go. It's something that it eats. Everything that it eats, it tastes like earth. It walks on no legs. So it's in constant shame, because it understands that it doesn't deserve. It feels that it doesn't deserve. It feels that it has a lot. It deals with jealousy. It wants. It lusts, the same as it wanted to be in relationship with whatever was with Chava, and with whatever was going on over there, whatever he wanted emotionally or spiritually, whatever they had and he didn't have. They had peace and he didn't. He was lusting that level of manicha, let's just say, that they were experiencing. They were living in oneness, and while he's living in separation. So the way the snake processes is from a place of shame, from a place of lack of deserve. Because if I'm in a limited capacity, a limited body of how much I can receive, of what I feel I deserve, automatically, even when one receives, he's also in conflict with whatever he receives, because he doesn't feel that he deserves or that he's worth receiving all that. And then and the way it receives, the way it moves energy is by shame, and from shame and lust. So it's important to take this experience as we are coming out from a place of we were actually the receiving and driving energy from a place of from the etzem of who we really are, that I not only do I deserve, I am shefa, I am chesed, I am kindness, I am goodness, I am light, I am flow, I am expansion, unlimited expansion. So the whole process, as we're going through this ratze v'shuv, which is back and forth, mata v'loy mata, touching and not touching, of this light entering and not entering, as we're going in, the whole process is for us to break away, separate ourselves from the snake, separate ourselves from this vessel that we're of that processes through shame and pain and lust, and doesn't feel anything. No matter what it receives, it's still not good enough. No matter how much one has, it's still not good enough. It's a manner, it's a messiah. I have one, I want two. We constantly want, but we are using that, we're flipping it on his head, because for all those that are searching for the truth, there's a never-ending thirst to want, a mavakesh. There's a constant search that we are finding, using that, turning over that lust into something that there's a constant that I want more. We want more. It's pulling through gravity, constantly using that to drive, to pull more light and more oneness, to bring more oneness into the separation. And this is what's happening. And Chassidus talks about it, like about Tirdas Panasa, Mayim Rabban. It's all about the Mayim Rabban coming into the Tirdas Panasa, coming out from Yontiv, entering in the space of this chaos and the unknown again. And is this year going to be better? Is it going to be different? Well, if you look at it that way, then you're limiting yourself as to how much better and how much more it can be, rather than entering in the space of, I understand now who I really am. My Shmini Atzeres, my Simchas Torah. I understand now who I really am. And from that place, I am Shefa, I am flow. And when the question comes into of the fear and the shame and the lust, when that enters, I understand now that is what I'm touching and I need to let go of. That is what's trying to pull me in. It's like the magnet. If you get too close to it, it sucks you in. It's the wind tunnel that sucks you in. But after being in the space of oneness for a period of time, being in that womb of the sukkah, I understand now that when that enters, that's not really who I am. That is not who I am b'chlal. So understand that the sukkah is everywhere. Everything is a sukkah. It's just that we are creating. Remember that something that is a dava shebekdusha, which means something that is the truth, stays forever. It's nitzchi. It stays forever. The Beis Hamikdash is still here. The stones are gone, but the energy that was created is still there. The sukkah was a training. We enter in this space of where we understand what a sukkah is, what a makav is, and then as we walk out of that sukkah, entering into Shabbos Beraishis, entering into that place of taking along whatever is that we ingrained. Now we're stepping into this chomer reality, bringing in my seal, bringing in the seal, my yesoid, bringing in my foundation, stepping into that place now, plugging into this to the world of Olam Asiyah. And we understand that everything goes after the source, everything goes after the foundation. And if the seal is a certain way, then the water, if the tracks are carved out a certain way, then whatever you pour on it is just going to run in those tracks. So we're coming out from the sukkah, entering into the world of chomer. With number one is to take this the illusion of the chomer, of the harshness, of the heaviness, and softening it, bringing it into making it more of a more of a tzura, more of energy, like the breath, versus something that is so harsh and stuck, like a mold that has to be broken. But rather it was already broken. Now we're just whatever comes at me, we're able to turn that around and not take it so serious, understanding what we're dealing with. And one of the ways to do that is by entering the Teva. We're going into the Teva. And the Baal Shem Tov talks about the Teva, and Chassidus is busy with the Teva. The Teva is the letters. The Teva is my inner self. When we go inside and we connect to the source of who we are, who each and every one of us is, from that place, that is the safest place. Which is by, on Simchas Torah, when we dance with the Torah, what are we doing? We're walking around. We are doing something that we're circling the bima. With the Sefer Torahs are closed, and we're circling the bima. We're doing something that is activating the Netzach, which is the legs, which makes no sense. And that's the only way that we can communicate with something that is a yesh ma'ayin, that makes no sense, that we have no language with. Remember, we started off this process with the shofar. We're communicating beyond language, beyond expression, beyond oisius, from the depth of my heart. And then we go deeper with that process, and we're finished. The finale is we finish that process by going around the bima, activating the Netzach, which is the legs don't have brains. They're just the dummies. They go wherever the brain tells them to go. And that's how, from going into a place of Kabbalah Soil, of just doing, we're activating the highest level of connection with something that we have no real expression with, other than just being and going into a place of amunah, of believing. And that is Boel Teva. That is going into the Teva, going into to my inside, going into my essence. And that's the safest place that we can be, that we need to enter. That is what the Torah is teaching us, Boel Teva. That is that when the waters are coming and they're going to start, confusion and fear and anxiety of the unknown, or parnasa. The Iker Chassidus talks about the parnasa, tedes parnasa. That's what's the biggest makkah right now that we're dealing with. So when we enter in the place of connecting to my emunah, it doesn't have to make sense, but being strong in my resolution, that connected to oneness, understanding that we're being guided, everything has already been worked out, everything has been planned already. All I got to do now is whenever we enter the place of separation, the place of doubt, we have to go back to the Teva, go back to my essence, go back to my Shmini Atzeres. So, we should all have a gesundten Winter. And definitely there is an amazing year coming. Now we just have to have emunah by believing it, rather than allowing to go into the doubt, which is the story of the Nachash. By believing it, we're actually going to make that happen, to bring it in over here, all the way down Lamata Masarat Fachim. And remember that the sukkah is everywhere. Wherever you go, you are surrounded, and the makifim, and there is chach above you. You're protected. It's just a matter of what type of sukkah you are entering into. And if you don't like the sukkah you're in, then leave and enter another sukkah. Have an awesome evening.